I'm sure at one point they weren't used to wearing helmets, and they got used to wearing helmets. It's not a heavy piece of equipment. They're made for as much comfort as possible, and they're a light piece of equipment. It's just a matter of getting used to it.
Okay. Another thing, Tony, someone asked me, I guess the reason why most of you jocks escape serious injury is you don't know what's going to happen, or when you do know what's going to happen, you can prepare yourself for a spill, and you always told me you want to roll under the rail.
Yeah, I think that, of course, getting out of the other horse's way is the most important thing, and you're underneath the rail. If you can keep your eye on what's going on around you and be aware of what's going on around you, and you can kind of look for that rail, the sooner you can get underneath of it, the less chance you have of getting hit by another horse. I think also part of surviving some of these spills is that most of your riders are in such good shape. Most of us are pretty good athletes, and that plays into it. You know, we bounce good sometimes.
Tony, before we go into on Tuesday, you had 2 wins. I took one to show a speed horse and one from a horse coming from Alabit. I guess, you know, like when you fly, a lot of the amateur pilots around, you have pilot error. I'm sure that probably a lot of jockeys cause themselves their own problems.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're out there, you got to worry about what they're doing, like driving a car plus riding your own horse.
Sure. You know, everybody that's out there doesn't have. We have riders of different experience, and you might get the more inexperienced rider out there do something that seems very stupid to a more experienced rider. So every once in a while, you're out there and you're babysitting some of these kids. And, you know, and then sometimes these horses don't always act or do the right thing. They don't steer like cars, and they don't start and stop like cars. And, you know, you have to watch what you're doing and be aware of what's going on around you at all times.
Exactly. Tony, on Tuesday, you rode a horse for Donnie Reeder called Summation. We're going to roll that footage now, and we're going to show you you on the front end here. You can't see, but for the folks at home, this is a typical Tony Black ride with a maiden on the front end. Tony, right now, you just won a half in 49-3, and you've got the front end pretty much to yourself, and the 8 horse is coming up to you on the outside.
Yeah, I think the 8 horse gets past me somewhere near the head of the stretch or in little ways into the stretch, and I was rating this horse pretty comfortably throughout most of the race, and she had enough left to come back and get by the 8 horse again, and draw off the last little bit, which that's kind of a thrill.
You know, Tony, they went the last 3 quarters in 1:16-1. It looks to me like it was an awful cuppy racetrack that afternoon.
Yeah, it really was. It was real cuppy, but through the stretch, it wasn't too bad on the fence. At times, some of these racetracks get deep on the fence. That was one of the days that the track wasn't extremely deep on the fence. In fact, it might even been a little better than the rest of the racetrack. So I stayed on the fence most of the race, which makes it easy. You don't have to look for the best part of the racetrack and be going in or out. You can stay straight and be in the best footing and saving the most ground.
I think at that point in time, when the other horse headed you about the 3/16 pole, that jock probably thought that you were out of horse. But you've won so many races for me by outthinking the other jocks. You don't always win on the best horse, Tony. I know that.
I try to have something left in the late stages of the race, and usually when I switch and hit them left-handed for the first time, they'll give me that little bit of burst because I haven't totally depleted their energy early on in the race.
All right, Tony, the next race was the last race of the day. It was a Doug Soroka trained horse, and I believe the horse's name was Something Ringing, and you're just leaving the gate now, and I don't know what post position you are here.
I think I'm, what was I, 2 or 3? I wound up on the front end on that horse also, and then in the latter stages around the middle of the turn, 5/16 pole.
Yeah, you're the 1 horse.
Yeah, the 1 horse I was. I think there was the 8 horse goes past me around the 5/16 pole.
Right now there's about 4 or 5 in the picture. They just went the first quarter in 22-2, and you're kind of rating the horse on the front end, and there's a horse coming up on the outside of you.
Right, and I think that was the 8 horse, and he goes past me someplace in the middle of the turn. And looks like he's going to maybe be the winner of this race also. My horse had a little something left and came back, and you'll see him drawing off.
Yeah, right now you gave him a little bit of a breather, and right now you have the inside again, where apparently the best part of the racetrack that day was. And right now you're at the quarter pole, and typical Tony, you're carrying him out a little bit wide, and you're going to drop down to the inside as you usually do, and that's. I know you well, buddy.
Yep. You can spot me a mile away, couldn't you?
Well, you know, Tony, you ride long, meaning that your stirrups are long, and there's an old expression on the backside: the longer you ride, the longer you ride. And right now, once again, you have a lot left. Big difference in the quality of horses. This 3/4 goes in 111 and 3. The maidens went in 116 and 4. You went out in 125 and 2.
Right.
But again, Les, you have any questions for Tony?
Tony, it was kind of interesting to watch in that last race. You let Mark Reed's horse come up and go past you, open up a little bit of distance. You had the pace in your head, didn't you?
Yeah, I kind of thought I was running easy enough the first part of the race to where I would, if I wasn't pressed too early, I would have some horse left and be able to go on in the later stages of the race. I'll tell you what played into that race a little bit. The man who trained the horse told me this horse could possibly be short. Don't use her too early. Well, I wound up on the front end, but I didn't feel like I was overextending this horse early. But then when that horse came and pressed me, I chose not to go with Mark Reed's horse, just strictly to reserve my horse a little bit. And then in the later stages, I did have something left.
So that was, again, one of those experience things that JJ was talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I think if I would have really gotten after that horse leaving the 3/8 pole and asked her to go with the horse of Mark Reed's, I think you'd have possibly seen her empty out, the horse that I rode be empty, and possibly get discouraged in the late stages of the race. And when they get discouraged, they maybe don't run their best in the later stages, just strictly not because they're so much out of energy, but they've just been fighting for too long.
Tony, I know you're going to be